What's going on, movie fans? Welcome to episode 6 of the Real Takes podcast here on WSVC Radio. I'm your host, Dan Sisk. I hope everyone here had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know I certainly did. And over the break, I was able to take some time away and watch the newest batch of episodes of Cobra Kai on Netflix. So I'm going to be talking to you guys about that show today. I have some positive, but quite a bit of negative to get to about that show, so let's get started. So, for context, I fell in love with the Cobra Kai series way back when it premiered on YouTube Plus or YouTube Premium, or I don't even remember what it was called. But it was one of those YouTube exclusives that no one watched because no one was subscribed to the service, and I actually, borrowed a subscription from my friend in order to watch it. Because honestly, I expected to hate the show. I thought the show was going to be absolutely dreadful based on the trailers. I had grown up really enjoying the Karate Kid movies. They were never some of my all-time favorites, but I remember, growing up and really enjoying them, particularly the first two. But I watched the first season of Cobra Kai, and I instantly fell in love with it. I fell in love with all of the humor. I thought the action sequences were thrilling. I thought the melodrama felt very true to its 80s roots while still being very engaging for today's audiences. I thought everything about the show worked on a very, very deep level, and ever since then I've been a huge fan of the show, and I've been a major supporter of the series. I was thrilled when the show moved to Netflix because I knew that obviously Netflix would give it the platform that I felt that it deserved, and ever since it moved to Netflix, it has been kind of a wobbly level quality, to put it lightly, from the series. I felt the last two seasons, while fun, definitely had their flaws and their issues. But none of that compared to season 6. So the episodes that came out last week was part 2 of the season, which is comprised of episodes 6 through 10 of season 6. This is the first 15-episode season for the show. And when episodes 1 through 5, part 1 of season 6, was released back in July, I believe, I didn't really like it. I thought the show had very clearly run its course. I felt that the character arcs had been pretty much wrapped up. I felt that a lot of the conflicts between the characters had been, had reached its conclusion, and I felt that it was a complete waste of time to add an additional season onto the end of this show. And having seen now through episode 10 of season 6, the last 5 episodes of the season and the series come out in February. But having seen now the first 10 episodes of this final season, I can safely say that Cobra Kai went on for a season too long. And it breaks my heart because I've loved this show for so many years, but, sometimes you gotta speak the hard truths, and that's what I'm here to do. One of the most frustrating parts of this entire season, specifically of these 5 elements, is that, and this is really the big issue with specifically part 2, but I would argue for the entire 10-episode run that we've gotten so far, all of the superficial elements that made Cobra Kai a standout, specifically for me. I'm talking the melodrama, the 80s style melodrama, the action sequences, and the humor. All of those elements are still here. And on a very, again, superficial level, the show remains a fun time. At no point did I watch any of these 5 episodes and want to bash my head into a wall. At no point did I want to turn it off because I was hating what I was watching. However, once you look past that superficial level, I feel the show's heart is completely gone. I feel that a lot of the themes and messages of the early seasons, specifically, regarding bullying and regarding, inclusivity without really veering into preachiness, a lot of those themes have completely dissipated from the show. And now we've just gotten to a point where we're competing in world tournaments, and we have all of these love triangles that have nothing to do with the fact that these are all supposed to be underprivileged kids. And it's just becoming absolutely absurd. In fact, I actually reached a point in episode 10, without divulging spoilers, there's this big action sequence where all of the various dojos that are participating in this world tournament, they all start to fight each other, and it's like a 15-minute long action set piece. I would actually classify it as unwatchable, because it felt like one of those situations where all of these characters have been set up, and all of these storylines have been set up, and all of these conflicts have been set up, and the writers realized that they needed all of the conflicts to wrap up within like a 15-minute time span. So they're like, you know what, let's just have this big nonsense action sequence so that we can wrap everything up real quick. And it just felt really, really cheap to me, and it felt really lazy, and it felt really forced. Again, the heart. The heart is what made the cheesiness tolerable for me. If any of you listened to my Agatha All Along episode, I talked about the fact that I really didn't care for the show until the last third, the last few episodes of that show, because the early episodes of Agatha All Along were way too campy, way too cheesy, and way too tongue-in-cheek for me. Cobra Kai is like that for the entirety of the show. But the reason I loved it so much at the beginning was that it was able to root the cheesiness and the silliness and the craziness in real emotion. And I never really, I'm lucky enough to, in my life, I've never been in a position where I have been underprivileged. So it wasn't a situation where I felt like I could see myself in any one character specifically. But I still loved them all for various reasons because of the heart that the show imbued into its storytelling. And again, the heart at this point has completely dissipated. There's still some good. The performances continue to be an absolute standout. Every actor is having such a good time making this show, and it shows in the final product. Obviously, Ralph Macchio and Billy Zabka coming back from the original movie. They're both charming as always. And then all of the kids are obviously back as well. You got Joel Maraduena, who tried to burst into movies with Blue Beetle and it blew up in his face. It wasn't entirely his fault. The movie's fine. But this continues to be the best thing he's done. He's great. Peyton List is a very, very good character this season. I actually felt Tori had one of the best arcs in this season, which is crazy because I felt like she was she was always one of my least favorite characters. But I think this season is really, really compelling with her. She's one of the storylines where I felt like we were actually, getting somewhere and we were actually developing the character. Everyone else is basically doing, what you expect. Robbie is still Robbie. Devin is still Devin. Anthony is still Anthony. I mean, Chosen is still Chosen. Sam is still Sam. I mean, all of these characters are pretty much in a rut at this point. And it's always fun to be around them. It's fun to see their continuing stories. But again, at some point, you have to realize story's over. Conflicts are done. Storylines are done. At one point in the final episode, there is a line where one of the characters says that it's really funny how we've reached Sam and Tori round 1 million. It might have been 1 billion. I can't remember the exact line. But that was the line where I said to myself, wow, even the writers recognize that we're at the point of recycling storylines and recycling conflicts just because we're struggling to fill 15 episodes worth of material. And that continues to be a real hurdle. One of the biggest positives for this season as well, and this has been a positive for the entirety of the series, is because it is a television show, it has the time to allocate screen time towards all of the different characters and all of the different storylines. One of the big issues I had with the newest Star Wars sequels, as well as the new Ghostbusters movies. This was a real issue with those two franchises in particular. But the new movies tried to split the screen time between the legacy characters and the new characters. They tried to introduce new characters at the same time as they were continuing the legacy characters. And as a result, every character got shortchanged. They tried to introduce Rey, Finn, and Poe in Star Wars while continuing Luke, Leia, and Han, and it didn't work out. They tried to continue all the stories of the original Ghostbusters while also introducing Paul Rudd and the new family. And it didn't work out with Star Wars, and it didn't work out with Ghostbusters. But one of the best elements of Cobra Kai is that, again, because it's a series, they're able to split the time between the legacy characters and the new characters, and you never feel shortchanged with any of them. So that continues to be one of its best elements. That's pretty much all I can say about these new episodes in particular. But before we go, I want to kind of touch on this a little bit. As some of you may know, Ralph Macchio actually filmed a new Karate Kid movie with Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan reprising his role from the 2010 Karate Kid movie with Jaden Smith, which was, fine, I guess. Jackie Chan was the best part of that movie, but the movie's not very good. And the movie is supposed to follow the events of Cobra Kai. I believe Ralph Macchio just confirmed that it takes place 3 years after the events of the show. The final 5 episodes of Cobra Kai come out in February, and the movie comes out in May. I have a seriously hard time believing that a lot of people are going to watch the end of Cobra Kai and immediately feel, it's time to go to the multiplex and watch another adventure with Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan. I feel the Karate Kid franchise after the 2010 movie was obviously at a real low point, and Cobra Kai took a long time to get off the ground because a lot of people simply did not trust the brand anymore and didn't feel like it was something that they could rely on for quality storytelling. And over the course of several seasons, the show, obviously won everyone over. I'm at the point now with Cobra Kai and the Karate Kid brand as a whole where I think I'm off the bandwagon, to be honest with you. And it breaks my heart to say that because I loved the first, I would say, 4 seasons of Cobra Kai so much. And I had so much fun watching them. But, I think at this point, I will be there for the last 5 episodes of the show in February, and I will be there when the movie comes out in May. But I suspect that a lot of people, and I don't even have to suspect because Netflix actually released its viewership numbers this morning. They do weekly breakdowns of their viewership on the platform, and the new episodes of Cobra Kai have only reached 3rd place on both on both of the charts that have been released. The show's been out for 2 weekends now, and over the course of its 10 days, it's only gotten up to number 3 in terms of Netflix shows, and the numbers themselves are not very good. So I suspect that a lot of people have dropped off the show and simply aren't watching it anymore. And I think it's going to be a lot to ask people to go back, watch the Cobra Kai that they haven't watched, and clearly a lot of people haven't watched it. And then immediately 3 months later say, okay guys, get off your couch and drive to your local multiplex and spend $10+ on a legacy sequel that has little to no connection to the show itself outside of the return of one character. That feels like a very, very difficult sell to me. And I'm simply bringing it up because I remain a fan of the Karate Kid. I want it to succeed. But at the early points of Cobra Kai, I was so excited for the new season. Guys, when this show was firing on all cylinders, I would wait till the day it came out, and I would literally binge all 10 episodes in one sitting in the first day that they were released, and I wouldn't let anyone talk to me until I was done. I had the time of my life. But at this point with Cobra Kai, again, I'm not completely off the bandwagon because I'm still watching, but it does not have my attention, and it doesn't have my love the way that the early seasons did. And I highly doubt, given the quality of these 10 episodes that we've gotten so far, I highly doubt that the last 5 episodes are going to be this drastic increase in quality. Obviously, I'll be talking about them on this show when they come out in February. I will devote either an episode or part of an episode to part 3 of season 6. But at this point, this franchise is going to have to win me back. And it saddens me to say that, but, you know, I would be lying if I told you that I'm very excited for part 3 of season 6 of Cobra Kai, and I would be lying to you if I said that I was excited about this movie. I will watch them out of obligation, not out of love. And sometimes that results in a great viewing experience, but a lot of times it doesn't. I hope that it provides an experience that ends up being worth my time. But you will hear about that in February. So, that has been it for this episode of the Real Takes podcast here on WSVC Radio. Looking ahead, obviously, you know, we've all got finals next week. There is a new movie coming out this Friday. It's called The Order. It is a crime thriller with Jude Law and Nicholas Hoult. I really like both of those actors, particularly Hoult. It sounds really, really interesting. It's based off a true story involving a cult of KKK members back in the 80s. It's gotten very, very good reviews. It debuted on the festival circuit, but in terms of being an awards contender, it never really materialized as something that would really happen in that arena. But the reviews have been very, very strong. I like crime thrillers. I like those two actors. I will be checking it out. So that'll be the next review. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Good luck with studying for finals. I know that'll be a large portion of everyone's week, mine included. So good luck with that. And as for Cobra Kai, look, if you're a fan of The Karate Kid like me, and if you loved the early seasons of Cobra Kai, I feel like you have to kind of watch this because, you know, at this point, we're so many seasons in, it's kind of hard to pull the plug. And again, on a superficial level, all the elements that made the show special are still here. The melodrama is still here. The humor is still here. The great action is still here. On that level, everything is still there. But the lack of heart really, really shines through. And if you were able to look past that, and still get enjoyment out of this final season, then I think it's worth your time. But I suspect that, and I actually don't need to suspect because I've seen the viewership data. It is obvious that a lot of people have dropped off the bandwagon of this franchise, and we'll see if part 3 and the movie can turn it around. But that's a conversation again for February and May. So that is it. I will, again, provide a review for The Order next week. Until then, again, this has been the Real Takes podcast here on WSVC Radio. I'm your host, Dan Sisk, and we will see you next week.
Hey there, listeners. I'm Matt Boyer, station manager of WSVC Radio. If you like what you're listening to, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and hit that bell button to be notified with all of our newest updates. Every day, one of our shows is releasing a new episode. Stick around and stay tuned.